Hello. Before we will start the application and the presentation, I will just show you the short history of our project. So we are working on the application called Credit Board, and it is application used by the creditors. And this little boy was born 2 years ago with a simple ng-new command, and this is his history. So we started with an application where the creditor should be able to create new applications for the applicant who would like to get some loan or leasing in the company. So creditor might bought the subscription in our application. So we need some form where the creditor can provide base data. We are sending simple mail to applicant with the special link, and via this link he can access the application, fill his data, and calculate. And later we are calculating the credit score based on the provided data. How simple is that? So our boy was really small, but then the creditors fall in love into our application and they start to ask about new features. So it has started. So they ask that we might have the co-applicant. He also need to provide some data. So let's create the flow for him. Sometimes they might be the couple. So let's not provide 2 emails just that made them able to fill on the one page. Let's add some third-party service. Thanks to that, we will have the PSD2 consent and we can access the bank information. Okay, the service is sometimes not working, so let's handle the situation, and so that applicant will not receive error and he can proceed. Of course, the creditor needs to decide how the application should behave. The most important feature, each creditor should have its own color palette for the application. Of course, the creditor needs to define what type of consent and is it required, or can applicant skip it. We need some documents. A creditor needs to ask about these documents and define what he needs. We need some security. We need some chat. Okay, of course, this chat is premium feature. So this little boy is a big man right now. And of course, the creditor needs to create cases by himself, calling some integration endpoint. So I'm sure that sometime from now, when the new junior developer will come to our project and ask, hey, I have this small task of changing the validation on one simple input. And he will ask, what should I test in order to check if I have not broke anything? And we will say, I don't know. And finally, this rabbit broke, and everybody forgot about this feature except the creditor who is using it on the daily basis. So, my name is Michał Paduch. I'm here to show you how to fall in love into Cypress, your end-to-end framework. And let's just start it. So first, let's ask ourselves, what is Cypress? Cypress is a JavaScript-based end-to-end testing tool. And for me, it's like the Git was a revolution in the source control systems. It brought a lot of new ideas, and it simplified a lot the managing our code. For me, the Cypress is the same for the end-to-end framework, especially looking on my experience from Selenium. So let's just show you how it's working. First, I will show you our application. This is our sample application, creditor application with the already submitted applications. We have the Add Application button. When we click it, we navigate to the form when creditor provides base data. And later, the mail is sent to the applicant, and when applicant accesses our application, he or she sees that view where he need to provide base data like children count, he can consent, and last step is to finalize, so we are notifying if everything was fine with the case. So let's start with the Cypress. This is the brand new workspace created with Cypress with just simple 2 commands. I have created new test, and if you are familiar with the Jasmine, so the JavaScript framework, the testing framework, you will feel very comfortable with this syntax. So we have the describe method. This is the method which creates some combines and groups the test related with some unit on some part. And we have the IT method, which is just simple single test method. So most of our code will land in this IT method. And you might see that we already used first Cypress command. So we are asking Cypress, hey Cypress, let's visit this page and see how it's looking. So let's right now run this application. So we will open the terminal. We will type Cypress open. We will choose end-to-end testing. We will choose Chrome browser. And voila, this is the visual part of the Cypress. We can choose which test we want to run. And that's it. So we have our application right inside the real Chrome instance. And we see that the command log, what we ask Cypress, and Cypress is saying us that everything was fine. OK, so let's now add some new commands. We want to click this button, and we want to make sure that we are on the valid page, so that the navigation for the button is working. Just to identify this button, we have added the data CI attribute for the button, so Cypress will know which DOM element it should interact with. OK, so let's start writing. So we are saying, hey, Cypress, I have button with this attribute. Let's click it. And also, we need to assert that we are on the valid page. So for this form, we have the data CI, and we call it application form. So also in the Cypress, we will say, please find this application form, and using the chai assertion, we will say, please make sure that it is visible. So even if this form is on the DOM, but it's hidden because of some display none in the parent attribute, or some pop-up is covering it, it should detect this and say to us, it is in the DOM, but it's not visible. So let's see how it's running. OK. We will rerun the application, and voila. And what's really cool about the Cypress, I'm not sure if you are familiar with the Selenium, that this is the SPA application written in the Angular. So when we change the page to another page, it's not that this page is instantly loaded. So Cypress has one of the best features of Cypress is the retriability. If we are saying, hey, I have the button with the data CI add button attribute, then Cypress will say, OK, I will wait 4 seconds, and within this 4 seconds, I will check if this button is visible. Only after 4 seconds or more you can define, this button won't be visible, then I will say that something is not wrong. Yeah? So we don't need to care about asynchronous way of end-to-end testing. It's totally solved by us. And also, if we will have here some loader, which will load some additional data, still, if it is inside this 4 seconds, it's totally fine for Cypress. And what's also really cool about this Cypress is that Cypress really utilizes the fact that it is running inside the Chrome browser. So we can always run the DevTools over here to see the current version of our application, but we are able also to go back in our history to the previous snapshots, because every state has its own snapshot, and we can inspect the DOM inside this snapshots. We have access to all Chrome DevTools features. If we have the Redux widget, we can just see what action has been made, invoked in our application. And also we have access to network tab. I will fastly open the network tab and just to see that we will have some entries here. We can just see what headers there are, what response, and the preview of the request. So how cool is that? That debugging is so easy with the Cypress. OK, so let's right now add some more functionalities to this test. I will add a lot of them. So we just want to test the whole flow. So we are creating the application. Applicants visit the page, and he's going through the entire page. You see that I have added a lot of commands here, but mostly it's just interactive with the DOM. We are typing something, sometimes we are clicking something. So let's see how it's working. You can make a coffee. but the fast one, because it's already executed. So one flow in our application is already tested. If something will fail during this flow and Cypress won't be able to proceed, we will be notified. Okay, so let's now see how Cypress is displaying issues. Let's assume that some of the new developers say, okay, we have a question about the Grunwald battle date, exact date, and maybe it's not necessary in our applicant flow. So we will remove one input from the flow, and we will, and let's go. So the Cypress is running, and you can see that it's expecting the Grunwald date input, but since it's not there for at least 4 seconds, it's just throwing, I could not find this input. So it's not even assertion, it's just the simple logic of the test, and the test will fail. Yeah, so, and this was the visual aspect of Cypress. So it's used to debug or work on one case, but also we can run the Cypress headlessly. So we can simply run it in the console, and Cypress will run all of the tests in the console and will let us know which one is working and not. We need to run this application separately. You might notice that I have other tasks running on the console. So Cypress is not caring about running code itself. It's just working on the provided URL. So we see that test has started. It's executing it. And soon we should have the result from the execution. Yeah, so we have the result. We have some issue here. So we can just navigate to directories. We have the screenshot from the failed test, and also we have the full video from running this test. So also the debugging should be easy here. So let's dive a little bit, maybe more deep into the Cypress functionalities, because Cypress can manipulate the browser. So in this case, we have this approve PSDT consent, and as I said, sometimes it's not working, but we cannot say when it's working, where it's not. So let's say to Cypress, hey, please, we want to test this flow. Let's make this call not working. So first we need to find this place when we are interacting with this consent. It's this 3 lines almost at the end. And we will just create new test. This is testing success flow. Let's call it the new test. Let's call it consent error flow. And we will say to Cypress, hey, please simulate that the one of the call is returning 500. So we are using intercept. We just provide which call we would like to change. We can use wildcards here for some ID parameters in the URL. And we just saying, for this call, please return the status code 500 and the body null. So this call will not even go out from the Chrome to our API. It will be immediately stopped by the Cypress. So this endpoint might not even exist in the API. We are changing also the assertions. So please make sure that after clicking the approve consent button, consent error will be shown for a user, but the user still can proceed, and at the end he should sees this finalized text. So let's see how it's working. Yeah, so we are running new test. Okay, we see it has successfully finalized. We see here that this one request was stopped, so we have this batch near to this request, and also we can navigate back to the history and see that, okay, we have the consent error element here. So that's all about to convince you that Cypress is really nice framework for end-to-end testing. It's very simple, and the main benefits of Cypress is that you don't need to add a lot of code base, boilerplate code just to handle end-to-end tests. Those tests which you saw was just the test which I written in a simple, brand new Cypress workspace. So you might have almost immediate effects from installing Cypress. It's because of this retry ability. It's very easy to debug the issues, so you don't need to be some witch to determine what might happen, why it went wrong. And also it has a high performance. As you saw, those tests were really fast. With minimum effort. We are mostly focused on writing the test and not about running tests. So let's now switch to, okay, I'm pretty sure that all of you are now, I hope, thinking, let's try the Cypress in our project. So I just prepared the small steps, what's important when looking into Cypress, because we have already using Cypress in our project for 2 years. And we rewritten the whole structure 7 times because of some issues which we made when creating the tests, but not the issues with Cypress itself. So first, most important thing is that Cypress is an excellent framework, but for end-to-end tests and component tests only. And I will say why is that. But just to understand what does it mean, let's now switch to, once again, learning about how we split cost in tests in our project. I will say how, I just heard it from the Younes Jondi on one of my workshops, and I really like this point of view on the tests. So let's forget about the unit tests, integration tests, and performance tests, and let's simplify it. Let's call it that we have the narrow tests in our project, and we have the wide test in our project. Narrow test is a test which executes below 100 milliseconds. Everyone could say what went wrong, just looking on the message, and it's easy to run it in isolation and parallelization without effort. And forget about mocking, more of this technical aspect. Narrow test can work on a real database, can work on real data. Doesn't matter. If it passes these 3 points, this is called narrow test. And wide test is not narrow test. So this is this very simple description. So the Cypress is very good when writing the wide tests, because it's really nice that in Cypress you don't need to think about mocking classes, spying objects, making some fake implementations. You just don't care. You work on the working version of our application. So it's really nice that you don't spend a lot of time on writing some additional code, which is not the business features in our application. But the biggest issue with Cypress is this executes below 100 milliseconds. Cypress is running tests really fast, but it's not writing tests immediately. So it's really nice to find some regression bugs, but still we need some unit tests which will be able to test one part of the application. It's very important because we made this issue, we used Cypress for everything, and now we need to migrate some of the tests because our test suite in Cypress is executing 3 hours, so very long. Okay, so let's see other points. Write as small test as possible. It's also important because when you will learn how to write an end-to-end test in Cypress, you will face the issue that, okay, what tests should I write? So Cypress, it's not for unit testing, so it might contain some testing on the entire flow, but let's keep only these commands which are really required here. So we are just keeping commands responsible with interacting with DOM. We just might have some assertions, but only the most important ones. And we might have some technical assertions. So here we have the assertion that applicant application should be visible. It's very nice to have those technical assertions because sometimes when the application will grow and applicant app will take 10 seconds to load, it might be an issue for the Cypress because the random commands will throw, and having such assertion will be easy to find a place where we need to ask Cypress to wait a little bit longer. don't put too many assertions. It was also our mistake that we started to put assertions from everything. And it was the issue because maintaining these assertions and later determining what in fact this test is doing was really painful. So as I said, they might be assertions in the middle of the code. It's not the unit test, but let's also keep those most important ones. Yeah, this is the example of extending the timeout and the application will grow. Remember about the isolation and parallelization. When you will start writing the test, you will face soon the issue that the test suite is running 20 minutes. And Cypress Cloud, I will say about it later, allows us to run tests in parallelization, but our application need to be prepared for it. So right now we have the code which is resetting all of the data before running this test, just to not overflow the previous test executions and previous data to current test. But we might need to add some additional tool, which, for example, will create new creditor every time we are using this test, just to make sure that we are logging to the creditor and no one else is using this creditor to perform tests. Okay. Cypress Cloud will be an option and is must-have in the future. Cypress is a company. Cypress is free for usage, but this company is earning by maintaining the Cypress Cloud. This is the amazing feature. It brings a lot of new functionalities into end-to-end framework testing, but it's also the paid one. It has the free version, which allows us to run 500 tests per month, but still you will face the point that you will need money to maintain this end-to-end. But let me just shortly show you why it's paid feature. So Cypress Clouds allow us to easily run tests in parallelization using only one command. So parallelization equals true. And it's not only running multiple tests in the same time, it's also learn how long does it take for that single test to execute, and it's trying to load balance it. So the one runner will run 3 most important and longer tests, and the second runner will run 10 tests which take much less to execute. It has a lot of features related with testing the test. For example, right now Cypress is implementing the feature that when you are writing the test, sometimes there is the issue that test sometimes is passing and sometimes is failing because of some timeouts. So when you write a test, Cypress first time will execute it 3 or 4 times. And only if this 5 times passes, then it says, okay, this is the good test. So, and later it will execute it only once. So Cypress is really pushing a lot of effort into adding important functionalities, but mostly to the Cypress Cloud. So this is very important to keep it in mind. Also, it can be pinned into your CI/CD process, so it can run the test when you are creating the pull request. It has a lot of analysis when you just can check which tests are often failing. Maybe something is wrong with these tests. And integration with CI/CD. And the last point is that it's really nice to read the Cypress guides, best practices. We have not followed one, and that's why we have right now the task in the Jira to revisit all of the tests. Okay, so last part of this presentation will be to show you some tips and tricks which are very helpful when starting writing the tests. Cypress is allowing to add some custom commands. So for example, if you have some special control or material controls, you can just add your own custom commands which will help you in interacting with it. And this is one of the custom commands which I propose that you can consider to use. It's just the step. So the ability for us, then we can group some commands into some meaningful portions. And we can just, in the command log, we will see immediately what this test is doing with the nice user-readable version. So it's really useful. But also don't overuse these custom commands. This was also one of our mistakes, that we started to add these commands. But the issue with the commands is that when your test is loading, it just loads all of the custom commands. So if we are writing custom commands for only single view, let's not use it in the other tests. So that's why you might consider to add classes which we are calling tools. And this is the simple class which contains some logic. Here you can see the creditor tool, which is building some model using some builder pattern, and it's calling from the Cypress the API to add this creditor. So you see here, Cypress interacts with API. Next point is arrange data with tools. This is one of our, I would say, best idea in end-to-end test suite. So let's once again visit this constant error test. You see that by red line, I marked all of the commands which are required to went to a place that we have the application in the state that we can start our test logic. And by green, I marked the actual test logic, which is most important in this test. We can, in fact, use tools. So we can create the tool application tool and use some pattern. I don't want to take fun from you of implementing some such class, so I will not show the implementation. And you see that in this tool, we are just asking some tool, hey, for this creditor, please create me some application, and it should be on the state consent not provided. So when we will visit the application app, we should be on the page which we are interested and we would like to test. So you see that here, in fact, arranging data is this. It's almost equals. What's cool is that Cypress don't need to go through the entire UI. So we don't need to open the creditor application, fill the data in the whole form. We can just call the backend directly with the valid models. Even in our test suite, we have tests which are building the models using builders in the Cypress, and it's comparing building model using this real flow with UI, and we are just comparing if we have not go out of sync with our models in tests and in UR. Yeah, and here are less important tips. This presentation will be available in some link provided after the Tech Summit. I believe this fifth one is maybe most important, because so just providing the data for the tests. You might know it if you are writing the unit test, that preparing data is something sometimes the really hard task. So I really encourage you to use the builder pattern, because it's working amazing. Also in my example, I also included the link to a repo. I have used the NX to manage the workspace. So the Cypress code will use exactly the same models as front-end application. And if you have the Node.js backend, it will also might use the same library with models. So it's working really nice with the existing setup. Here are some more valuable links. If you like to exchange the kudos, you can follow me on the Strava. Also, I have included the Cypress YouTube channel, because they are running some really nice conferences with. When they talk about testing, for example, how to increase the testing culture in your company, how to convince the business that we need testing, so not only these technical aspects. And thank you very much.